why these products are built to benefit the bank and not the consumer.
Well, obviously they benefit the bank because, well, the bank wants them to benefit the bank. They're the people that are teaching you, hey, here's how you should pay your bills. Here's how you should make your mortgage payments.
Money is the number one reason people get divorced.
Yes.
And when people get divorced, I mean, I come from a divorced family. I mean, it rips the family apart. What is the biggest thing that will derail somebody that's on the right path? Like, what is the one thing you see destroy everything that you teach when they get started? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Money School podcast. And on this podcast, we talk about one thing, and that is money, but specifically about how to take back control of the money that you make. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because you know what? There's a lot of people out there that feel rich because they've got equity in their house. But the reality is, too many people are cash poor, house rich. And you know what? The bank is always going to win. No matter how you play the game, the bank is the winner unless you change the rules that you operate under. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about. So let's come over and let's talk a little bit about the rules. Both of you help folks change the rules when it comes to banking. So let's just talk a little bit about how do we get people to go from this mentality of feeling rich because they've got equity, but yet the way they live their life is just like they're poor.
I think that, it's literally your lifestyle, what you choose to use when it comes to, when we're talking about debt, when we're talking about what I teach, which is lines of credit, when we're talking about what does your cash flow look like, how much of the equity, if you're in any kind of HELOC, for example, where you have the equity in a line of credit that you're using, how are you using that to pull that in to gain cash flow? So if we have people that are out here and they have the house, they have a car, they have personal loans, they have credit cards, then I consider that cash poor because all of your money is going out in interest to the banks. But when we can use our money to serve us, instead of throwing it away on everything out there besides our lives. I'm always telling people, if you can take your lifestyle and wrap it around the correct banking tool, then you're going to have the cash flow you need to keep the balances down on the banking tool that you're using.
How simple is this to implement for people? Like, is it like just changing the way they think? Is it changing the way they use money? Like, what is that whole thing that you teach to get people to switch from that mentality of spend every dollar I make, but yet they're broke because on that side you said with all their debts, they just can't get ahead. What is the process for doing that?
It is the mindset. I am amazed at how many people have the stronghold of let's just make our payments. If we just make our payments, that's all we have to do. And I think that that's the poorest way to live, is when you're thinking all I have to do is, make my mortgage payment this month, make that car payment, I'm good with the bank. That is such a false belief. And changing the mindset, I'll just share that nobody in my family does velocity banking because the culture in my area is poverty and making payments, working that hourly position, make your payments. And to help people to understand it's the way you're looking at the bank, you would not believe how hard that is to change the mindset. So if people watch the channel and they see a video, I have so many comments in a day, and they'll say, when I first saw the video, I was like, what is she talking about? This seems unreal, too real to be true. But then they start implementing, keep watching videos, and that mindset starts to shift. Well, once you're there, you're going to be able to accomplish anything. I don't teach frugality. I teach, let's get into the right banking tools. Let's use our money to serve us. And I don't care if you make $3,000 a month or if you make $100,000 a month, that you're going to be able to succeed.
I love that. And Harrison, now that you're talking about the banking tools, Harrison, you and your family, you own a bank. You own one of the largest mortgage brokerage houses out there, the mortgage lending houses. So these tools that we're talking about, how are they helping people get ahead financially? Because really what I want to focus on is a lot of people think they're so far ahead right now because during COVID and that low interest rate cycle, people locked in these 30-year mortgages and literally they'll fight with you. They will literally fight with you that they've got the greatest mortgage rate and they're never getting rid of it. So anything you bring to them that involves changing that, they close right off. But yet, you know the truth. You are on the banking side and you have these banking products. So just talk to the audience a little bit about why this, number one, mindset problem, but also why these products are built to benefit the bank and not the consumer.
Well, obviously they benefit the bank because, well, the bank wants them to benefit the bank. They're the people that are teaching you, hey, here's how you should pay your bills. Here's how you should make your mortgage payments. Oh, we'll give you guys a little bit of a nugget. If you make 2 payments extra every single year, you'll pay your home off faster. Yeah, you'll pay the back end of it off when the interest is super low. Yes, we are in the process and going through the process of acquiring a bank. I kind of like to think that we're a anti-bank bank in the sense that we don't want to just say, yeah, you should just make your minimum payments and yeah, keep the same mindset you've always had. And yeah, you know what, stay in the same spot you've always been. It's no, let's figure out how we can help you achieve what you're looking at trying to achieve. And that may also be at the slight detriment of maybe making a couple extra bucks. That's okay. Because if we're all advancing together, then that helps every single person that we come in contact with. And in reality, I think that big business begets business in the sense that if you do good business and you help somebody and you're actually taking the time and yeah, hey, maybe I wasn't able to help you right now and maybe I was able to help you in the future, but here's the steps you need to take and you're just a good person. And I think that you guys both can obviously understand what that means to just genuinely help somebody. Then that person's going to come back to you when they need to buy a new car, when they need to start their business, when they're looking at buying that new home, whatever that event is in their life, they're going to come back because you were the person that gave them maybe the hard truth, but at least you spent the time with them. And a lot of people never get that time. They just go, yeah, make the payment, go off, do whatever you need to do. And then they fall into the mindset of, well, that's what they told me to do and I don't know anything else, so I'm just going to listen to the people that I paid my money to because they're trustworthy.
Well, realistically, a bank is they're setting you up because, yes, they're giving you that loan that you need today, but they're thinking out, hey, we're going to be sending you a letter because you'll need to refinance that here.
Exactly.
Give us 3 or 4 years and you're going to start getting papers to refi. So it's literally the kindness is looking for that next loan, and I think that that's what's so aggravating to the American people, to myself, is that, we want the true banker friend that's helping us to make right decisions in what it is we need to be doing for our wealth, not for the bank.
It's almost kind of like what I would think banking relationships were like back in the 40s or something. You'd walk in, you bring in your paycheck, you have a conversation with the person, they know about you. There are plenty of banks around the country that have that small town feel, but we're trying to figure out how we can take it from this small town and let everybody have that, private wealth experience. Doesn't matter whether you're at $3,000 or $100,000 a month. It's just helping understand, well, this is where you are, where do you want to be? And it's probably going to take a little bit of extra work. And that's something that we're going to have a hard conversation about is you might need to change your habits. You might need to stop spending money on these other extracurricular activities that maybe aren't serving you super well. Doesn't mean you need to stop forever. It maybe just means, hey, you don't need to go to the bar every weekday that you are, go out with your friends on the weekends or whatnot. You can spend time with your family. There's other ways to have fun than spending money, in my opinion.
Well, speaking of change, if you're still on, you made it this far, throw a like because we love having you on. But here's what we're going to get into today. We're going to get into how do you change the rules that you operate under to put yourself back in control of money. And we're going to do that by talking with Christy VANN from Vantastic. I know you already figured out who the guests are. They're rock stars. They're well known. But Christy VANN teaches velocity banking. How do you put velocity into your process? And then we've got the one, the only Harrison George, not George Harrison. Yes, Harrison George from CMG Financial. You probably know it as CMG Lending. talking the product, talking banks, and the anti-bank. So that's what you're going to learn today. You're going to learn why paying off your debt is the single most important thing you can do financially. But you're going to learn how to do that with a lot less energy and a lot less time by applying velocity banking, the all-in-one product, as well as the infinite banking concept. So let's dive in. Let's talk about debt. Nobody wants to talk about paying their debt off. They want to talk about the sexy things, like they want to talk about investing in the S&P 500, buying real estate, lending on real estate, all the things they hear the wealthy doing, they want to do. But when you look at their balance sheet or their personal financial statement, they're buried in debt. But yet they're going out there and they're putting money in 401ks and things that they don't even know, like, or understand, but they're still putting money into it. All the while they're looking at their debt saying, we're just going to make minimum payments. Why is this a path that gets people nowhere?
They do it because that's what they're taught to do, right? So when you're a kid and you get a job, they tell you, go get a checking account, go get a savings account, and make sure you get that job that you're going to work at for 30 years. You're going to retire, so you got to have the retirement fund set up. So they're funding because they don't know why. It's just what they were told to do. I mean, isn't that the truth?
They don't know why is exactly the truth, because they were taught this. This is what they were told to do. Save your way to wealth, work extra, trade time for dollars, and just keep working harder and harder.
And get the mortgage. You have to have a mortgage because you want the home. You have to have a car, so that's the first thing. But is it really? No, it's the student loan because, well, we got to go to college, right? So from the time kids, while they're developing, they're hearing mom and dad talk about this. Mom can't make the mortgage payment because dad didn't work enough hours this week. I mean, it's just a continual conversation in the home. And then you've got these lovely gurus out here that are telling you, well, you're spending too much money. It's your fault that you're broke. And so the American people are weighted down with this horrendous guilt and not knowing how to come out of it. I mean, it's not fair because you've got gurus beating people up saying, it's your fault that you're in this situation. If you hadn't have been the spender, if you were, if you weren't spending so much time with your kids and you had the second job, you would be able to afford, this or that. You wouldn't be in debt. I think that's so unfair to do the American people that way.
It's also a detriment to the American family. I mean, it
it
rips
is.
a family apart. I mean, money is the number one reason people get divorced.
Yes.
And when people get divorced, I mean, I come from a divorced family. I mean, it rips the family apart. I can look down the barrel and say, this is what happens because of money. And that's exactly the problem we have today.
It's so unfair. And, I look back at my own situation with, growing up. I remember when I was 5 years old, my mother was so stressed out about how they were going to pay the electric bill that, she was almost in tears. And I'm thinking as a 5-year-old, I'm like, well, Mom, I literally said to her, well, Mom, we can go around the house and look for, change in people's pockets and maybe, and she's like, that's just not going to help this situation, and you're like, as a kid, you're watching this stress and then you grow up and you find yourself in the same exact mess, but it's literally just that's where we're taught to be. And we just think we're doing the right thing. And then when you, like I keep beating up on gurus because I think they're so unfair. People come to me and they're like, I thought that I was eating out too much. I thought that, I was doing too much with my kids. When I'm switching it up on them and I'm saying, you need to spend time with your kids. Your paycheck should be enough to cover your expenses. But when we're throwing it out, and I'm not pointing at you, Harrison, but when we're throwing it out to a bank, I look at people every day and the interest that they're paying in the payments that they're making is around $3,000 a month.
Just interest.
Interest. And so I give them the view of what if we can use a bank tool that cuts that interest back, to maybe $800, $1,000 per month. What would you do with $2,000 a month? Would you be able to take your kids to the movies and not have guilt about you spent $50? I mean, that's the wake-up call. is that if we can get the people to see that the interest you're throwing away every month is what you need to live on, then they're like, wow. And that's where this all-in-one first lien HELOC comes into play, is because the thousands and thousands of dollars people are throwing away in mortgage interest every month can be reclaimed.
Exactly.
We can live a free life. And I think that that's so exciting when you take the bonds off of people and they finally get to think, wait, it wasn't because I went out and had a party night with my employees and my work people or whatever. That's not why I'm broke. Spending $100 a weekend, not what is making me broke. No, it's what are you paying out to the banks?
It's like the shackles of what you were taught finally coming off.
It's beautiful.
It's like, I want to get a new car because the people down the street that we're friends with got a new car. And they actually moved to this other new subdivision that we should be moving into because we're at the same job and we should be at the same place. And I know how much that person makes, so I need to start buying this. Oh yeah, well, I also need to send our kid to private school. And then you start building up these, I need to keep up with these people, whether that's the right thing for you and your family or not. And in reality, it's, yeah, I can make that payment. Yeah, I can make that payment. Well, after 4 or 5 of it, yeah, I can make those payments. You kind of start running into the, oh, shoot, I probably can't make this payment.
Isn't it the mentality, though, that if, say they bring in $3,000 a month, that they're like, oh, okay, well, my house, 1,000, which that's unrealistic, but let's say it's 1,000, and then my living expenses are 1,000, and then my car payment's 500, and then my personal loan is 450. I've got $50 a month. I can go get another personal loan.
Yeah, that's the mindset.
I mean, I know it because I lived that. I'll never forget that. In my first marriage, we were looking at finances, which anybody knows my history knows that wasn't a good marriage. But I remember coming to the end of the page and we had $50 a month left over. And the very first words out of his mouth was, oh yeah, we can buy that couch we want. We'll set it up on those payments, $50 a month. And I'm like, okay. Sounds like a good idea. That was before the food cost was added in, by the way. So I know what it means to live in a negative cash flow.
And that keeps people trapped.
Yes.
Because now, like, I love your example where, like, you're going to go and spend that last $50 in your budget to have a new couch, but you're not going to buy the couch. You're going to finance the couch. And then for the extra things like food and the other things that come up in life that weren't accounted for in that budget, what do? You go work harder. You work overtime, which takes away time from the most important things that you mentioned. Time with your family, time with your kids, time going out and spending quality time. You have no time left because you've put the emphasis in the complete wrong place and you've only valued the things, not your time. So Harrison, I want to jump over to you. It's rare that on this podcast, I get to have somebody that literally comes from a family that owns a freaking bank. I mean, Christy, I don't know if you've ever kind of had people on your show and they're like, well, we own a bank and we own this giant mortgage company. So this is quite the honor, but this is your second time here.
Yes.
The first one went viral and all we did is talked about how people today are house rich and cash poor. And coming from the bank side, you're the anti-bank is what I think you said. So let's just talk a little bit about first, I want to hit on all-in-one. I want the audience to understand what the all-in-one is. And you referenced it as the tool that puts people back in control, allows them to take back this money that they're leaking every month in interest. But here's where people are going to get tripped up. And I'm going to go back to house rich because they have a house. It's appreciated tremendously. In some cases, their house is doubled. You see this every single day, but they can't afford their bills. So that's just counterproductive. But they won't get rid of that mortgage because they got one of those low interest rate loans. Please explain to the audience how, even though they've got a 2 or 3% 30-year fixed, why are they losing the game, even at that low interest rate? And why could they get a higher interest rate loan, like an all-in-one first lien HELOC, and be so much further ahead? Like Christy mentioned, take $800 back a month, but they went to a higher interest rate. People just don't mentally, they can't flip that switch. They're like, that's backwards. You're losing money. but they're not. Why?
Yeah, so the amortization schedule is completely different on a first lien HELOC than it is actually inside of a amortized 30-year mortgage. The amortization schedule for 30-year mortgages, even though you may have a rate of 2.5, 2.625 low interest rate, there's this thing called TIP, total interest paid. You'll see it on your closing documents. That is the total amount of interest you're going to pay over the life of the loan. And I'll let you know in a little secret, 2.625 interest rate is not a 2.625 in interest paid. It's actually more like 50%. So if somebody had a $400,000 loan at a 2.625, they're going to spend $200,000 in interest over the entirety of that loan. Well, $200,000 is not a small amount of money. I mean, you're spending $600,000 in total with what you're paying back and the total amount of interest. And this isn't an advertisement to say, oh, take higher interest rate loans, because no, a higher 30-year mortgage is obviously going to be worse than a lower 30-year mortgage. We're trying to restructure how you think about money and how you think about your debts through this all-in-one loan. Unlike a 30-year mortgage where you pay your payment based off of what you borrow, this product is only going to be based off of what you owe. And to get even more granular, every time you make income, whether mom gives you $100 for your birthday, you find $5 on the side of the road and you deposit it, that money, that dollar, until you decide to spend it, is just sitting against your mortgage. And because you owe less on your home, your payment is now calculated off of less. So it just allows for individuals to let their money, even though they know they're going to spend it on gas and groceries and the couch, that they know they're going to spend all of this money down the road. But if you can keep that money in for half of the month, if you make $10,000 a month, the only reason I'm using 10,000 because it's easy math, and you keep that money inside of this all-in-one loan for half of the month, over the course of a 12-month time frame, you would have deposited $120,000. But because you kept half of it, all of it in there for half of each of the months, it's as if you're spending interest on a mortgage that has a balance of $60,000 less than what you owe. So if you owe $400,000 over the course of that year, it's as if you owed $340,000 on the home by just having the money come in and going out. And that's why this is such a powerful product. It's not as much of the every dollar I earn goes towards principal, and yeah, I make great money, and yeah, I can invest it. It's I have access to money, and I have access to paying my bills off so that I can get back to a place of saving a couple extra bucks so I can spend more time with my kids, so I can spend more time with my significant other. Maybe I can go fly and do a vacation, whatever it is that you need in your life. But while you're waiting to do that, you are just letting the money work for you because it's a checking account paired with this line of credit, meaning that it has all the same functionalities that any other bank account you've ever had has, but just has an extra engine on the back end that helps you pay it off faster. Does less for us, does more for you. Mm-hmm. We know that we're going to do, we know that you're going to use it because it's such a powerful tool, and we know that the next time you need something, you're going to give us a call. That's really where it's at.
So basically, the client doesn't have to change anything because they've already got a bank account that they're putting their paycheck and their extra money in, that $5 they found on the street, they're depositing it in a bank account, right? So today, that bank account is not giving them any credit toward paying off their mortgage unless they make a payment, but then that money's gone forever. Correct. They can't get it back. So a lot of people sit with money in the bank, oh, that's my emergency fund, that's my bus fund, that's my whatever, and they're getting zero credit for it. And most people are getting zero interest on their checking account, zero. So all you're saying is now, because the checking account is attached to this first lien HELOC, the all-in-one, every dollar in the checking account is counting toward, effectively, like it's being looked at as it's paying the mortgage down. So therefore, the interest is only calculated on the balance used, unlike a regular mortgage. Now, all of a sudden, they're getting the credit for that. So now I want to spin this because this is where it's going to get super fun. Remember I said people are house rich, meaning they got a bunch of equity in their house, but they've got this really low mortgage. Christy meets them and talks to them about this thing called velocity, but she says, hey, the problem in your life is not that you've got all this money available in your house in equity, it's that you don't use it. Mm-hmm. So she then comes in and uses velocity, but uses the all-in-one to take that equity in the house, extract a percentage of that, use that to then pay off the debts, and then recycle and recapture the money that we're being paid on the debts that just got paid off. Money almost, to some folks listening to this money that we're talking about, paying your debts off, is almost like phantom money that you don't even know you have. Right. It's buried in the walls of your house. But they, through these systems, We'll extract that money from the walls of your house, and Christy will show you how to use that money to pay off all your debts. But you see, then the most important thing, actually, I'm saying too much. Christy, just tell them how you do this.
Are you talking about using
Velocity,
the first
how do
lien?
you use, first off, the all-in-one, take the equity out of the house, okay, that's the HELOC, if you will, but it's still their mortgage because now it's one. And use that to pay off debts. Now, a lot of people, when they do this, they make a mistake. And we're going to talk about the mistakes people make. They'll take all the money out of their equity, okay? They'll pay off their debts.
Right.
But then they'll forget to make the same payments back.
Absolutely.
So that's where we can go.
When you're making a $500 a month car payment, and let me tell you, that's low. Right now, people are paying $1,500 a month for cars. I see that every day, and it blows my mind. But same
Can I just pause real quick on that? I don't mean to kind of brag, but I gotta. So my car payments are probably that, like those $1,500 to $2,000 car payments. There's a huge difference because, like, as soon as you said that, I'm like, who the heck would ever do that? But you see, I look at it, I do that every single month. I make thousands of dollars in car payments, but I pay them back to my own bank, which means I keep all of the interest. We'll get to that in a little bit. I didn't mean to jump in there, but I just had to say that because I wanted to seed it.
Clients are taking, and a $70,000 vehicle, 70, 80, is about your $1,500 payment, and that's at a good rate. A lot of my clients, they have low credit scores, so that $1,500 may be on a $40,000, $50,000 car, right? But if they use that all-in-one first lien to pay off the car balance, now that's in the HELOC. Well, the interest on 40 or 50,000 at even a 9% interest rate is nowhere near that $1,000 interest they're paying on the car.
No, I mean,
so when you're taking your income, which would be the monthly payment, $1,500, putting it back into the HELOC, you're bringing down the balance, which means that you're going to pay even less interest on this 40 or 50,000.
and it's all sitting inside of the mortgage instead of, because slight correction, that you don't use the same bank account you currently have. We create a new bank account for you. So instead of the money going into your Wells Fargo right now, you make that car payment, that you switch it over to this, all your money goes into this checking account. You not make the car payment anymore because you paid it off, but what's the payment?
Yeah, I just did it on a $40,000 car at 8% interest, $266.67.
That just comes
not
out.
$1,500.
So
So
you're saving like, what is that, $1,240?
well, let's just do that. So you said it'd be about $1,500 if they had bad credit. So they were paying $1,500. That just freed up $1,233. So $1,233 a month is freed up just by doing this times 12 months. That's $14,796 saved per year. Saved.
Now, do you have a problem taking your kids to the movies?
No.
No, because you have reclaimed what you were throwing away. You might as well get in your car, in your Porsche, go down the road, and just start throwing $10 bills out the window, because that's the same effect you're having when you're sitting in these high interest amortization schedules.
I've never run the math on that. That's insane.
It is.
Like, think about how fast they could pay a $40,000 car off just on that savings.
Right.
Like,
well, that's why everybody gets their car payments are usually gone in 8 months. The balance.
And people, I know when I hear your videos and people see your videos, oh, that's a scam, that's not real.
Right.
We just did the math.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think it would take 8 months at that. Maybe, I don't know, I didn't do that. But like, yeah, your car is paid off then. And you didn't work harder, save more, or do anything. You just changed how you do it.
Right.
That's the beauty of this.
Well, replace car with credit card. 29%
gosh,
interest.
yes.
That's only interest only. And you're going, yeah, I make my minimum payment. Well, your minimum payment's not changing the balance, but you still need to pay for groceries and gas and all the other things. And it slowly is doing this.
Well, let's just quickly give the audience a quick snapshot of that, because we're talking about paying off debt. Then we're going to look at beyond debt. We're going to look at the fun things, because paying off debt to most people isn't cool. But when we reframe it the way you do it, you say, okay, how many of you would like to make a 20% return on your money? Everybody's hand goes up, right? How many of you would like to make 20% with no risk? Everybody's hands go up.
Yeah.
Okay, how do they do that, Christy?
I personally use my HELOC to fund my infinite banking.
But the 20%.
But I mean, seriously, you've made 20% when you start eliminating these amortization schedule loans that you've got into your 8-9% line of credit. I mean, is that not a 20% return?
Well, yeah, I mean,
that's
most of
like
these-
a 80%
But I
return.
mean, even simpler, most people have credit cards. So you're
Yeah.
using the all-in-one, you're getting the equity in your house, which is kind of phantom money for some people.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying off the credit cards. The credit cards, they were probably paying 20+%.
Yes.
And then they're making the same payment they were paying Visa back to the all-in-one.
Right.
That's like keeping 20%
It
because you're not
is.
paying it, you're not losing it
Right.
anymore.
In fact, it
You know,
saves you. It's almost more efficient because it never leaves the account.
bingo, this is what I'm trying to get at. It's the
timing is-
velocity of
yes,
this.
the timing is. It's like you can compare the all-in-one in a 30-year mortgage to a 30-year mortgage in like a Swiss Army knife. It first gives you the ability to kind of base zero. You're at base camp now. You paid off your debt. You're saving money. Now what's next? And then you just talked about the whole life policy.
Right. I mean, it's just common sense that we weren't taught. And I mean, you know, if you kind of go back in history, and let's look at all the billionaires of the world. Do they use an amortization schedule? Absolutely not. They're using
But they use debt.
the
There's no
equity,
question.
yeah, they love
the
it.
equity on their properties to buy more properties, which is the way it should be used. But no, we have the general basic American family sitting here. Well, we have to have the mortgage, we have to have the car loan, you know, we have to have the credit cards if we want anything. And that's so unfair because it's just that they have not been taught that there's a better way. I will never forget the time I paid off my car for the first time. I literally thought I was always going to have a car payment. And my mother told me you would always have a mortgage payment because, well, that's the only way you get to live in a home. So when you pay off your car for the first time, it's almost surreal because you're
It's
like,
mine.
wow, let's go buy another one, you know? It's
Let's
just,
repeat that. That was so much fun paying every
Well, you gotta
penny.
pick up the couch.
Yeah, let's do it again. Oh, and also, if anyone's looking for a new couch, this one's for sale. It's only $50 a month. I'm just kidding.
A firm, $299 a month.
Firm.
but it's just not fair. And, you know, I always come back to that because I'm being real with people that you're in a situation that's not your fault. And I know somebody out there has got a guru's name is screaming right now, she's an idiot, but it's really not the American public's fault that you're broke, that you're paycheck to paycheck. It's not that you're spending too much. I realize some people, you know, my first husband, like with the couch, he thought he always had to buy something. I realize there's people like that. But most of us are just, you know, we're just living, we're trying to get through every day the best we can to be the good person. And we're not just throwing away money. I have people come to me, it's super sad because they're like I used to be. I just want to let my kids go to the book fair and send $5 with them. Well, I was never able to do that because I was so broke. And that's the most unfair feeling for a parent that wants to provide, but they feel like they're not doing enough. And picking up that second job, that's painful when you're a parent. You know, traveling all the time. You know, it's like, well, you're going to know one day. It's like that you have parental guilt about, I would rather be at home with my daughter right now, because I have 3, and I know you have 1. But I would rather be with them. But no, I had to be, you know, on the road 24/7 with my job because it was 7/12s. So you were gone all the time. Your kids, you know, you get to call them a couple of times a day. But what kind of life is that for people? And when you're not even making enough while you're on the job to provide what that kid would like to do when you are on time off, that's sucking the life out of you. And if we can give people some hope that, you know what, let's look at your finances, let's see what you've got going on, let's see where we can rearrange some things here to give you some cash flow so that you can have that $50 a week to do this. That's what I want to bring to the people. I don't want them to work themselves to death. I want them to have peace and realize that with just a couple of tweaks, moving into these lines of credit, you're going to be able to breathe again and let people live, because we only have this life And if we're sitting here just so weighted down with depression because we feel like we're not doing enough, that, you know, we need to be looking for that other job, that's not fair. And I want to lift that off of the people.
Yeah.
I love that. You know, I know one of the things that I've been seeing a lot more is now the mathematics behind all of this, because we've created the software, the Vault, that allows us to see the actual mathematics. And it blows my mind because we run this debt scenario so often that we're talking about, where people are just doing what they've been taught to do. And it's taking them forever to pay off all their debts, if they ever get all their debts paid off, for that matter, and how much money and interest. We see that line by line. But then we just look at just doing it your way, adding velocity banking, changing the order in which they pay it. And they're paying their debts off in half the time, not working harder, longer, or taking on any risk. Then you add the infinite banking concept, and now it's even cutting that down. And now they're keeping a bunch of the money instead of giving it away, and adding legacy in terms of the debt benefit for their family. So like when all this stuff comes together, the all-in-one velocity banking and the infinite banking concept, we call it the trifecta, like people are literally getting out of debt in times that they never even dreamed possible, like a third of the time. But now the hard part is you take somebody from one mindset of here's the way I'm going to do it, you teach them how to pay their debts off in half or a third of the time without any more money, then all of a sudden all their debts are paid off. Now we got a real conundrum, because now they're just going to either revert back to the old way of thinking and rack up the debt by buying couches, or they're going to then see beyond debt and make that money work for them. So now they got money actually being invested in things they know, like, and understand. So let's just talk about the beyond debt part. Like when you work with people, you get them completely out of debt. How are you getting them on the right track next for that next phase?
Well, I'm going to give you credit here because you taught me. I knew about infinite banking when I learned about velocity banking, but that just seemed so out there. It was. I remember thinking, you know, one day I'll get to that. You know, in a 15-year period, I started my first infinite policy about the 8th year in. So I understand people, you know, I need to breathe first. Let me see what I'm doing with my money here, and then we'll talk about that. But with that, the debt elimination was one thing that I was like, I literally felt like I was owning the bank because I was like, I got this. But when the infinite policies came in, I have 3 daughters, and I realized they're set up for the future. I can go now because financially they're set. They're going to have the money, you know, when I die, that policy is going to pay out. But what you helped me to see with the infinite banking was that it's a line of credit. Yeah. I'm going to get up and run around the room. It's a line of credit. And the thing is that you're doing velocity banking in the infinite banking process. And I can't tell you what that means to me, because I have been able to get my children set up, beyond my children now, because I have 6 policies that I'm working on. And knowing, and you're the one that showed me this, I'll never forget, and I think I did get up and run around the room today, you showed me this, but when I pay that back, when I take that loan and I pay that back, how that's just a line ready for me to use again. Wow, people do not know that. Yeah. And so like with the infinite banking, velocity banking freed me on the first layer of debt, but then infinite banking freed me on wealth, because it's just like, wow, it's sitting in there just growing at compound interest, paying dividends. I'm using it to do what I need to do with it and paying myself back just like I do in the line of credit. And does it get any better than this?
No.
I mean, you're building wealth while you're using your money, and you're not even, you know, we're not throwing it away into the 401k. We're not throwing it, you know, into the stock market wondering, you know, is the stock market going to, you know, no, I'm not going to live in that. And this is a solid way for me to be growing my money while I'm still able to use it when I need to.
And it's not I feel like it's not magic. It's
No.
just math. And we were talking about that earlier, and it just follow the math problem. It just works for you. And once you get to step 1, go to step 2. And when you go to step 2, go to step 3. And all along the way, it's influencing of what the individual's goals are. Not my goal, not your goal, because our goals are different from each other's. It's whatever that person's looking for. And I think that that's the most powerful part of all of this is you get to choose your goals. And I think that people are probably almost afraid to have a choice to choose their goals because their first goal is pay off debt. I don't know what's next. Well, here's a roadmap. Here, this is all you need to do. Just follow step 1, step 2, step 3, and live your life.
But a lot of people don't want to do the math, which is, I think, where we kind of started down the path of mathematically solving all of this, right? Because like we talk velocity banking, from the surface level, it's a concept, right? It's a concept of the way people use money. Then we talk about all-in-ones, right? And people are thinking, okay, it's a product from a bank. It's just different than the product I'm used to.
Exactly.
And then they think about infinite banking, which is also a concept, right? It was just a process of doing a certain thing with money and adding a specially designed whole life. And folks, I know a lot of you maybe don't know anything about infinite policies or the infinite banking concept. All it is a process that you use a specially designed whole life for. And the biggest reason you use a whole life is it can earn uninterrupted compounding interest. In other words, your money gets to work for you 24/7 while you get to deploy it and use it a second time to make money, whether it's paying off debt or real estate, stocks, whatever you do. So I just want to clarify that. But let's talk a little bit about one thing that a lot of people are unwilling to sacrifice, because this is another one of those false beliefs. But it's not a false belief. It's just they've been taught wrong. The emergency fund. We've been taught 3 to 6 months of income, or 3 to 6 months of expenses. We need to have that set aside at all times. So what do people do? They start a savings account. Maybe they're getting some interest on that, and that money just sits there. But with the all-in-one and what you teach, like, they no longer need to leave that money hostage sitting in a side account where it's not doing anything for them. They can make it work for them while still keeping the liquidity. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I think that's exactly what I teach, is because, like he said earlier, if you're paying 29% interest on a credit card, I mean, common sense says, let's get rid of that. But that's not the common sense. So to go back to your question, because I have all of these thoughts running through my mind on freedom, and you were talking about that, the 3 to 6 months expenses in an account. I just have to say something. Is that not angering when you can't pay your bills and somebody's telling you, hey, you need to be throwing money in the savings? Let me tell you how that worked out for me. When I was, I've got to have a savings, so I would take $100 a month, put it into a savings account. And before that month was over, I had to pull that $100 back out and use it for something else that came up. And to me, when that's just another weight. Well, you don't have a savings account. You're not putting money to the side. What if that thing happens? Well, what if it does? What if something happens to me and I have $500 in a savings account? Is that really going to help me out? Now, what happens if I have a line of credit and the equity in my home's opened up and available? What happens in that emergency now and I need $2,500? Guess what?
Or 6
I'm going to
months.
write a check. And I have 6 months of my expenses sitting in my line of credit available. That's the thing that messes with people so much, is that, wait a minute, you're looking at that as your savings account? Well, yeah, because if I'm paying 29% on a credit card, like I'm coming back full circle here, but then I have the line of credit available, but yet I have $5,000 sitting in the bank while I'm paying a 29% credit card, but I have a line of credit available. My mind just plays all around that, because pay off the credit card in the line of credit, take your savings, put it into the line of credit, and you've paid off the credit card balance that you had. But it's still available for you to pull it back out and use it again.
To us, that is such a logical, simple thing. Right. To the average person, that is complicated, because the psychology of money doesn't play right for them. They're just, they've got to have their money over here for emergency funds. they've got to have their cheap mortgage, the psychology of the cheap mortgage. And then over here, I got to try to pay my debts off. So they're compartmentalized, each one of these different things, when really if they only knew what we know, it's one thing. It's just one thing. And it does everything. And that's, I think, where people need to let go. And this is the hardest thing. I think that in my 48 years, this is probably the hardest thing for people to get over. And it's the hardest thing for me to explain to people, because the psychology of that cheap mortgage is keeping them from paying all their debts off, is keeping them from having more time for their kids, is keeping them from having a sense or actual financial freedom, because they're hanging on to something that isn't even helping them, which is this 3% mortgage. And they brag to their friends. They brag about all the equity they have in their house. Oh, my house is worth $500,000 and I only owe $200,000. My mortgage is 2%. Man, I'm crushing it.
Yeah.
You know, that's his
But they're
drinking
making
buddies,
minimum
right?
payments on their
But then
credit
he's
cards.
home with his wife being like, "Honey, I don't know how I'm going to pay the electric bill." Like,
Right.
Look at all this equity.
that just blows my mind.
Right.
But this is real. Like,
Yeah.
how do we get over the psychology, the problem with the way people view that? Like, I don't know.
I don't either. I don't. And like I said, everybody in my family has a mortgage.
I mean, do we just hit them over the head with a hard object? I mean, what
I don't
is
know.
the answer? Harrison, what is the answer coming from the bank? Like, how do we get people to break that?
I mean, I think it always kind of starts with education. And the hard part is there's the people that go, I know everything, so you don't need to teach me anything. And I'm just going to pretend to listen, but I'm just going to let it go in one ear and out the other. It's possible those people may never actually end up
Right.
changing their
Yeah,
lifestyle.
yeah. Will Rogers covered that one. I'll tell
And
you.
whatever we can do to help you change your mindset, man, I'd love to help. I'd love to help somebody change their mindset on that.
But don't you really need to be seeking it yourself?
You do.
Correct.
You
Yeah.
have to be so frustrated and exhausted with what's happening that you're looking. Because I know that's where I started making the change, was I was just so exhausted with money. Had no idea there was another way. Never even thought of that, because, you know, I'm toddler stepping it through this system out here with a guru telling me that you need 55 envelopes telling you where to put your money, right?
Were you eating rice and beans beans and rice?
I was eating, what is that, ramen noodles?
Ramen noodles.
Ramen
Ooh, those are good.
MREs, yeah.
cheaper than beans and rice. So, I mean, but, you know, when that's what you think you're supposed to be doing, and you know that you just think, well, everybody else is just saving money, so
No,
what's
they're not.
wrong with me?
They're not, though.
No,
People just
nobody.
pretend like they are.
Right.
It's all the ensemble behind all of it. Oh yeah, I'm doing all of this, but behind the scenes, like you said, honey, how the heck are we going to make our car? How the heck are we going to pay the electric bill?
You know, this has been my most difficult thing in my profession, is the knowing that we can solve almost everybody's problems.
Okay.
Financially, we can solve their problems. I know this. I know this to be true. I know this to be fact, and I know this to be mathematically proven.
Mm-hmm.
But what you said, we can only help those that want help.
Yep.
And that has been the most difficult thing, starting with family. For some reason, family is the most difficult. They know what you do. They act like they're your biggest cheerleaders, but yet then when you try to help them, like, no, I'm paying my mortgage off, it's 3%. Chris, what are you talking about? Or telling them to do this. Oh, why would I buy a stupid whole life? That's like paying premiums. That's stupid. And they don't even want to get it. But yet, they're our biggest cheerleaders. It's if we can't get our own family members to understand that, like, what we know can change their financial futures, then how do we get other people? And that has been my most difficult thing. Almost has made me somewhat of an asshole, because I literally now will not help somebody unless they want to help themselves
That's
more
where I am.
than I want to help them.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I shouldn't want to help you with your money more than you want to help yourself with your money. That's like the thing that I've come to. And it's taken me 10 years to get to that point, 10 years of literally fighting with it. And I think that's what you said. You nailed it. Like,
And I do the same thing. And, you know, when I said a minute ago, everybody in my family has a mortgage. And I'm not talking about them. They're just doing what they think they know to
They were
do.
taught.
But the idea is that they see where I'm at. They see, wait a minute, if, you know, we need a loan, let's go over here. But yet, back when I tried to talk to them, and like you, I don't have conversations now. If you don't reach out to me, really reach out like I'm wanting help instead of just saying, oh, I'm in so much debt, I'm overwhelmed. Well, watch a video, because the idea is that the information is out there for you to seek it yourself and learn. Because that's what I tell people, on the channel all the time. Don't pay me to get your finances in order. You watch a video, and there's so many scenarios in the videos that's on YouTube right now, not just my channel, that people can work out. Once they know their numbers, they can start putting the puzzle pieces together. But we're not going to push people into understanding what we have to say. They're going to have to seek it. And just like what you teach, totally different concept from what I teach, but wow, they can intertwine so good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. And you give us so much information online. It's almost as if obviously people are raving about you every time I talk to someone saying that I spoke to Christy, but you can just watch a video and you can just learn it.
Yeah.
And on your channel too, it's just, here's how you do it. Here's the roadmap.
But here's the real reality, and this is the sad truth. Probably 30,000 or more people will see this episode. Some of those people are hanging on by the tiny littlest bit of their pinky finger. That's what they're hanging on. But they won't pick the phone up. They won't watch Christy's video. They won't watch my videos. They won't call CMG. They're just going to sit there and they're going to complain about how bad their situation is. They're going to sit there and cry themselves to sleep, wondering how they're going to get over, when the answer is right in front of them. But they will not take action.
Yeah.
That's the hard truth. And I don't mean to put anybody down watching this, but that is the fact in the reality of the situation. Out of everybody that will see this, a very small percentage, 1 to 5% will take action and watch another video. Out of that 1 to 5%, 1 to 5% of them will actually seek our help, but not call us up and say, hey, tell me about that velocity banking thing. Tell me about that all-in-one. They will do their homework and they will say, I've watched 50 of your videos. Yeah. I am ready to go. Yep. Point me in the right direction. Those are the ones we can help. And it is 1% of 1%.
And their lives
that's
are
the
changing.
Sad reality of this situation. But I want to take that. I want to talk now about real scenarios. Now, both of you have hundreds, if not thousands, of case studies of people you've helped. Can you just think of each of you one situation that, we're not going to use names or any of the real numbers or anything, but one situation where someone's life was completely transformed, and do they say thank you when that happens?
Wow. You bringing that up, I hear it every day. Okay. So I get letters, emails, comments. You have saved me. And I thank the Lord for that, because I feel like that He gives us the wisdom that we need to do everything right. And so let me just honor Him here with that. But I have a couple. I'm headed to New York City after this, and they wanted me to come to New York City because they own a business there, and they wanted to take me out for dinner. Now, we're talking about wealthy people here, right? They should have already been, they live in Manhattan. You should be on your game. But they watched the Fantastic Channel and literally was broke. And they said they were going to have to sell their home. Their business was in major trouble. And said, since we watched the videos, we've moved into the first lien HELOC, and we are down to where we owe $25,000.
Wow.
We're almost done.
Wow.
And they said, I just, I can't tell you what you've done for us. Well, that overwhelms me, because I'm like, I'm trying to deal with the people that make $2,000 and $3,000 a month, and we have people that are making tens of thousands a month that are really learning from this experience with the channel. So we're literally Tuesday night, today's Monday, tomorrow night, we're going to be going out to dinner in the Trump Tower. How exciting is that?
Yes. Some won't think that's exciting, but for us, all of us here, we're like, woohoo!
Well, I mean, forget, Trump. I'm talking about, you're talking about
That's
a
an
major
iconic
building.
That's
in
iconic.
New York City. So me and my husband both are super excited about
Home Alone
that.
just comes to mind. Home Alone.
Yeah, but here you are, you're changing people's lives to the point that you're reaching the people in New York City all the way down to, my town in Tennessee. That are getting help. So yes, I'm talking. I see this every day. So with these first lien HELOCs, that's making a huge impact because now you're able to take multiple debt that you're making these minimum payments to, and you're putting it into one tool that now all of your income is going in and it's working for you. That's the game changer. And just like the people in New York City, they're completely out of debt now just because they decided to use a different tool at the bank.
Harrison, give me an example. We don't have to go into
Totally.
because you probably see so many things at the bank. I can't even imagine what you see and where money goes in people's lives. But give an example of how all-in-one has changed one person's
I have
life.
kind of a completely opposite side of the spectrum story. Single mother. She was at she was at a point where she was living in like homeless shelters, and she went through the process through down payment assistance to buy a home through a regular 30-year mortgage. This individual then ended up meeting somebody, and they had additional income coming in. And we're not talking about them buying a fancy home. She bought like $120,000 property, and she was just barely enough to make enough money to make the payment. We were able to finally get them into the home, and as time went on, this was early before COVID, before values went up like crazy. And so as the value of her property went up, she had heard about this all-in-one loan. She gave me a call back because we helped her get into this property, and she said, hey, I have some of these other debts, couches and whatnot, cars and so on, but my home's now worth $200,000. So can I use some of the equity in my home to pay this off? I have other income coming in. And this woman who 6 years ago was not even aware of where maybe she would sleep for the night is now in the process of buying a home, getting into this first lien HELOC, having paid off all of her debt, and her home today is almost paid off.
Wow.
With yes, now she did meet somebody and there is some additional income coming in, sure, but it's not, you don't need to be very wealthy.
Right.
You don't need to, it's just, you don't need to be from the Silicon Valley and in the tech industry. It's just, hey, do I understand that this thing can work this way? And am I pretty good at taking care of myself? And am I diligent on sticking to a task? And yeah, I am, and I can follow the rules.
So for the 1%ers watching this episode right now, some of you are thinking, I've got to do something different. So Christy, how would people learn more about what you do?
The Fantastic channel. And I mean, that's where all of the information is. All the links are in the description below for reaching me, you, and him. So it's just a general information that anybody can watch and learn. And if you're seeking a way to get out of debt, there's no way. There's no way. Like you said earlier, we can help anybody out of a financial situation. You just have to really be interested in yourself, know your numbers, of course, know what you're dealing with, but then just start using the strategies. That's all it is.
So folks, we'll put that in the description. Fantastic on YouTube. Harrison, how do people reach out to you for the all-in-one?
Same old thing. So you can click the links in the description. Obviously, we have our YouTube channel as well, Harrison George Team, that has ways and how to decide if this product works for me. There's simulators, there's all the math behind it, showing you exactly what your year-to-date or what your payoff's going to be, how much money you're going to save in interest, your line of credit, the whole 9 yards. Obviously, you can just reach out to us through the links in the description, and that should give you direct contact to me.
So we'll put those up in the description. And also some of you, we've been talking a lot about math and process, and some of you are just like, I wouldn't know where to even start. So we've solved that too. It's called the Vault. It's a software that literally does all the math, pulls together infinite banking, velocity banking, the all-in-one in one place, and mathematically shows you the economic value. So if you're interested, go to byobvault.com And what the heck, I'll give you a really, really good discount on it, and it's called the Early Bird. So just type that in the coupon code to get a discount, and that'll help bring it all together. So those 3 resources are all you would need to get started. Now that's just for the 1% of the 1% of you. If you're hearing what we're saying, click the links, check it out, get started. One final thing before we close this thing down. What is the biggest thing that will derail somebody that's on the right path? Like, what is the one thing you see destroy everything that you teach when they get started?
So I have clients that get into the first lien HELOC and they start buying cars. They start buying things. I'm not going to say names, but I have one client that has 4 sons, and instead of paying down, letting his income, he has a good income, he'll buy a car for each boy. And you can't play. We're adulting here. We want to stop the insanity of the money and the stress behind it. So what I tell people, like Harrison and I have talked, get serious about, let's get rid of that debt, and you can have anything you want.
Yeah.
It's just, let's get rid of the debt. Let's bring those balances down to where that, if we lose our jobs, if something happens that we can't work for 2 or 3 months, that we can breathe through that line of credit. It can give us the peace we need when we don't have the income coming in, and just get back up on our feet. One last thing, with people wanting to start businesses and stuff, I used the line of credit to start Vantastic. I knew I was going to come out of the corporate position. I knew I was going to miss, 3 to 6 months of income. How was I going to do that? Because, I was a single parent. So I decided the line of credit is going to keep me floating until Vantastic starts making money. Wasn't even sure if it would, but figured I'd go back into the corporate world. But people, the line of credit is a wonderful tool that the banks offer. It's not like they don't. It's just that they haven't been brought to the forefront like we're trying to do today. So, that would be the downfall, though, is where people just, they're like, oh, I've got all my equity available. I'm going to go, buy the car, or buy the couch, or whatever, or buy the new dog. I don't know, whatever.
I wonder how many couches are going to be sold because of this video.
We should get a couch counter in the bottom every time we say couch.
But that's the fail I see.
How about you?
That's exactly the same thing. I think almost take it a step further. People go, oh, great, I can get into this HELOC. I'll use my equity, pay off all of this debt, cars, credit cards, student loans, their kids' student loans, pay the kid's car off, the whole 9 yards, right? And then they go, well, I have all this line of credit on my credit cards now.
Yeah.
Why don't we do it again? Because I got this thing that they said is going to work. Well, no, it doesn't. It's not an unlimited credit card for you to just buy everything you want. It's pay off your debt, let the account funnel the funds through it as you build up equity. If you need something and it's going to change your life in a positive way, yes, buying a car is in many instances a need. If you can't get from point A to point B, and point B is your job, and that's what you use to make your money, well then get a car. After you do all of that, let's look at the next thing. How can we build this engine up? And I've talked about engines before in the sense that your income in the household usually have 1 or 2 engines, partners, and then you might want to add a different engine, whether that's a rental property and whatnot. Now, don't just go and say, well, this home, I'm going to buy that one right there. There's math, easy math. We'll teach you how to do the math.
I think the sum up of what I see, where people go wrong is people are just perpetually bailing out their sinking boat. They got a giant hole in the bottom of their boat. It's letting water in. They grab a pail and they're just constantly bailing out water. The smart ones, the ones that actually make it, the ones that don't make the mistake in the future are the ones that actually patch the hole and leave it patched. Then they no longer need to bail. Then they can make their boat go faster, farther, smarter. And that's, I think, what most people need to do is be an honest banker. If you're going to come into this environment and you're going to learn from all of us and you're going to learn how to take back control of your money, don't revert back to your old ways. Because how you got here today is not how you're going to get where you want to get in life. So you're going to have to change things, and change is tough. And the truth, well, sometimes the truth hurts. So folks, thank you so much for joining us. Right up there in the description, you're going to find ways to contact Christy VANN and watch her channel, Vantastic, on YouTube. Harrison George and the George team, get on there, check that out. We'll put his contact info up there so you can get that equity out of your walls and put that money to good work. And if you're interested in the infinite banking concept, well, you're in the right place. Just go up and watch the videos. Thanks for joining us for the Money School podcast. We'll see you on the next one.